Thanks again for staying with us on your must-watch news and current affairs program on television. This morning on ITV, we call it TMI. Today on the show, as I said at the beginning, major talking point is on the retrospective look at the flag off of the PDP campaign on Saturday and the matters that are now on the front burner, the issues that emanated from that activity. Well, it started like a joke, it started like a rumor, with the two major political parties being at each other's throats with accusation and counter-accusations over billboards. But Saturday's event really came to a head where we gathered that thugs were at the gate of the palace of the Benin monarch, and in the process of time, a crisis ensued. Some people were allegedly shot, who we also told were protesting. But how that happened is still something we're trying to find out. If it was just pure sheer coincidence or it was pre-planned. And there was a certain guy, the video has been trending online, who said because he had a certain sticker on his car, a group of guys came, surrounded him, and before he could say Jack Robinson, they descended on him. As a matter of fact, one actually brought out a pistol, threatening to shoot him if he makes further comments. We don't want violence in EDO 2020, but it looks like that's something that we're going to deal with as far as the EDO 2020 governorship election is concerned. Let me welcome very especially our panelists to kick off this conversation. Osaze Jesuabo is a veteran journalist, is also a politician, former senior special assistant to the state government, a member of the PDP campaign council. Many thanks for joining us on the program.
Thank you, Sonny Duke. Good morning, viewers. Long time no see.
Joining us as well for this discussion is Emmanuel Agbogun, is also a member of the APC campaign council, public affairs commentator. Emma, many thanks for joining us on the program.
Thank you, viewers who are at home. We look forward to seeing iMac and EMAC.
Okay, just let our viewers know that Barrister Kesley Omerabo is in the house. John Yakubu is also in the house, and Bishop Bode is also in the house. They'll be joining the second segment of this conversation as we unravel all that transpired over the weekend, particularly with the EDO 2020. Let me start with Osaze Jesuabo. Now, it's a case of accusation and counter-accusation over what transpired on Saturday. Was it a coincidence? Is there any part of it that was a coincidence, or this were pre-planned, or it just happened somehow? Let me get your thoughts.
Well, I don't think that there was anything like coincidence. It was planned and carefully executed. The PDP and Governor Obaseki, we are going to launch flag off the campaign on Saturday. The security agencies were aware. The palace was aware. And we had prepared for the visit. If anybody ought to have been there that day, they ought to be only PDP supporters. I watched the videos that have been trending. One of them gave an information which eventually turned out to be false. One of those, in fact, it was even on AIT or channels that I watched it, said they were in the palace to celebrate with one Captain Osa on the naming ceremony of his son. So when I heard it, I was wondering, why should an individual go to hold a naming ceremony in the palace? It was later in your news and subsequent news items to that I later heard that it was His Royal Majesty that was doing a naming ceremony. And probably the Captain Osa was invited to that ceremony. And I now started asking myself, the Captain Osa that I know, we grew up together in New Benin, and we are friends, that I know has never moved about in Edo State, in the old Midwest State, or even Bende, has never moved around with thugs. He's one man that I see as a very humble and easygoing man. So I now started asking myself, why will people, before I now got the clear indication, why will thugs mobilize themselves to follow him to a function? The function was strictly private for His Royal Majesty and those he invited, and his friends and subjects that he invited. So was it necessary for anybody going to attend that type of private function in the palace to go with thugs? And for the cars that were destroyed that you mentioned, those cars that were destroyed, at least the ones I have seen so far, there might be others, were cars that had PDP stickers and PDP caps and all those things inside. PDP supporters who were there, they were not there as thugs. They were there to cheer their leaders who were coming to visit the palace. Could they have been destroying their own cars by themselves? Could they have been drawing guns at themselves? And could PDP supporters have been wearing POI face caps? All those who were rowdy and singing and all those things that we saw on video that have been trending, they were all wearing POI caps. So which means it was, in fact, there was a banner that was even there of Okatenosa designed by one of Basel. Were those things necessary for people who accompanied somebody for a private affair of His Royal Majesty? So when you put all these things together, you cannot say it was a coincidence. It was a carefully planned project and well executed to embarrass the governor and his visitors. But at the end of the day, they ended up ridiculing the people of Edo State and Benin City by that action. That palace is sacrilege. It's the only identity we have as Benin, and we cherish it very much. And I am expecting a very strong worded statement from the palace, because if there is no statement from there, you can be sure that tomorrow anybody will wake up, organize talks to go and embarrass anybody who is visiting the palace. They should not allow it pass. It is a bad precedent.
All right. Emmanuel, what are your thoughts on what transpired on Saturday?
Yes, just as I said earlier, some of us believe in IMAC, not earmark. It goes a long way to show that when those persons who are on the losing end, when they want to look for soft landing, they begin to find one or two loopholes. Just the interview, he said, I'm a social media strongman, and just the interview, he said, if you watch the interview to the concluding end, you will see that even the journalists who, when that man was granting press statements, they all ran alongside when the PDP supporters started shooting. Those were people he supposedly said that are APC supporters. But that is by the way. The truth be said, the palace environment is well coated with CCTV cameras. I think if there's a replay by the security architecture of the palace, we will know the true statement. But however, I don't want to base my discussion here this morning on that because I know it is very frivolous. But the true sense of what happens here in Edo State is that we are being faced with in a political scenario where a governor who demolishes people's hotels, a governor who stops people's business, a governor who doesn't want his own people to be seen to be productive in the federal climax of the Nigerian politics, wants to retain office, and telling us that he has performed when we know that he's a governor who bought ventilators in the state to take care of us, Edo people are citizens of the state, and to date, those ventilators that he bought, I don't think any of them have been tested. If they have, I tell the government and his commissioner for health to show us a proof over that. That notwithstanding, the Edo State people, as of today, particularly with the Benin, we see Captain Osa Okumbo as a philanthropist.
Okay.
When you talk about Captain Osa Okumbo being a philanthropist, you know he's a man that has touched many lives. You don't expect such an illustrious son in Benin nation to be going to the palace to celebrate with the monarch, and you don't see supporters of his. Dangote will not be going to the palace of the Emir of Kano, and you don't see supporters of Dangote hovering around the palace. But a very quick one to just portray the point to clear the air over what my senior elder just said here, is that why those PDP convoy was coming with the governor. If you watch the videos in the media,
social media,
you will see that they were hailing the convoy. But the moment they realized that their problem was inside the convoy, people will send their mothers to prison, people will send their younger ones to prison, people who have convicted the people more for carrying out civil disobedience, or will I call it crime, you know, as to illegal trading, illegal bus parking, where government has not done the needful to cushion those issues. When they noticed that it was the man that was inside the bus with his political allies, they started calling him ole. However, if you look in those crowds, in the palace, people always go in the gate and come out, whether you are PDP or APC. If you also look in those crowds, you saw some likes of people who have been alleged on the social media to have shot over protesters. Would I call them protesters or jubilants, who were actually happy that the likes of Captain Akumbo was coming to facilitate with our Oba, the king. You would have seen that what turned out to be the case of the day, you had the likes of Ebo Stone, you had the likes of Austin Vibut, you had the likes of Mutari, who is the chairman of Puhoff. They were all there shouting that the governor should be given an access road into the palace. Okay. And as of today, you find it very difficult that a governor that does not have that has come to not to realize that he's very unpopular. He's fighting his way into the palace. I think news had it that he didn't even go to the palace to seek for royal blessings with kola nut. So, however, I don't want to bother myself on that, because those are not the core issues.
I'm glad you know that. I'm glad you know that. Yeah.
People are more concerned about what the health sector have had for us.
Okay.
Edo people are more concerned about what the employment opportunities have been for us. Edo people are still more concerned about the security of Edo State.
Okay, let me pause you there. The protest turned out to be a major distraction or a sad point, or what perhaps may have been planned out to be a big event in terms of flagging of the campaign. Do you think the protest, achieved that?
Of course, it didn't achieve. The protest didn't achieve what they wanted to achieve. First of all, I'm surprised and shocked that a bona fide, I don't know, because Agbokun is both Benin and Ishan, so I don't know if he's Benin. but I will be.
Well, he's an Edo State person.
Yes, it's an Edo State.
I'm a typical Isiman. I come from Isiman.
Okay, so I'm surprised that a Benin man we call what happened on Saturday a sacrilegious affair. We call it a frivolous something. I can never imagine anybody thinking that it is frivolous to discuss about it. If it was, you see, let me tell you, Edo people are not, they are sensible people. Yesterday, on the social media, I watched the APC candidate led by Oshomole going to kneel down before Enige and accepting white chalk or whatever it was. Do people not think you stage a protest in the palace of the Oba Abini on Saturday? On Sunday, you are going before the brothers of the Oba. You are going to meet them and asking them to support you. When I watched it, I felt that, well, the timing was even wrong. They should have allowed temper, because those people were aware of what happened. Leaving that, he has talked of a government who had. Then your second question, I don't think it affected what PDP planned to do. The visit to the palace was just to inform the Oba that, look, I have visitors who have come to identify with me. The visit was not to go there to seek for the Oba's consent or support. When he decides to go there, we are not even aware if he has not gone there privately. That is not something you put on
public domain.
Yes.
Okay.
It could be possible he has gone to Oba with kola nuts and drinks to say, my Royal Highness, I'm your subject, pray for me. So the purpose of that visit was not to ask for blessing, was to inform the Oba that some of my friends are here to identify with my aspiration. Having said that, he talked about the governor not having done anything. Even if the governor has not done anything, the people we saw there on Saturday were Agberos. And the first action the governor took was to stop agberoism, if there's a word like that, in Edo State. And definitely those people are still not happy. We are aware of these states, people who were touts, who were nobody before 2007, went to Dubai to go and celebrate their first 1 billion each. Where did that money come from? Did they work for it? They came from the sweat of the market women. They came from the sweat of drivers. They came from the sweat of people who hawk on the streets. And today, I have a house in the heart of New Benin Market. You dare not go to New Benin Market today and speak bad of Obaseki. Now the women are sleeping and sleeping well. They are not thinking of who is going to disturb them the next day, who is going to harass them. They are not thinking, the widows are not thinking who is going to tell them to go and die. Because they know that there is a humane governor who has been taking care of their welfare and is still taking care of their welfare. He said the governor has not done anything. Today, pensioners, I have an uncle who told me that he got his alert on Saturday morning. Before 2016, what was happening in this state? Pensioners were collapsing in centers where they claimed verification were being done. Pensioners were collapsing where people were queuing up to receive their pensions. Pensioners were protesting all over Ring Road on a daily basis. For the past 4 years, how many protests of pensioners have you seen? Because they are being paid their pensions, their gratuities, the backlog of gratuities are being cleared, and all the areas that Oshomole accumulated, this man has cleared them, and now they have been computerized. So there is no issue of going to line up for hours, for days, collapsing and all those things. Those things don't. That also is a major achievement. But for other infrastructural achievement, I'm sure we'll come to that.
All right. It's TMI, beautiful Monday morning, building up the conversation on EDO 2020, engendering a violence-free election is our major talking point on the program today. Let me come to Emmanuel Agbogun.
Yes, sir.
One of the, when you interact with people on the street, the perception of the present administration is that their perception is encapsulated in wait and see. Do you subscribe? I don't expect you to subscribe to this thinking.
Yes. For some of you who are on the end of journalism, some of us who have activism background, we do not take delight in misinforming the public whenever we're in a platform like this. It will please you to note that a man who says his vacancy and his policy is vacancy has tested the Osiomo Power project. Is it a vacancy project? Can we attest to ourselves in this studio today that that project is a vacancy project?
Is the project alive? Is it working? Is it running?
No, it's not working.
Okay.
He even paid your management or thereabout, solicited for your assistance to air the testing ceremony. Have that been the basis for his vacancy name? In fact, those people who called him vacancy, I don't even think that name is still running in their mouths as of today. Let me quickly draw the attention of Edo people. You see, we live in a society where everybody wants to be relevant. But the basis for being relevant should be put on a scoreboard. That is why I said, is it an I mark or a M mark? You see, if you saw what my elder statesman who sat down on my left-hand side took pains to say, that the governor has done pensions, the governor has actually changed. It's a kudos to the government. Some of us don't tell lies when we are talking to the public. But the answer to guess, if you remove the cost of claiming pensions from the gross domestic revenue of Edo State, ask yourself, is that what the government should be celebrated? Has the entire pension he has settled go up 20 million out of the over 400 billion naira that have been accrued to this state? The answer is no. So let me start by saying, a governor that will send the extreme poor, the plebeians, the ordinary man, the vulnerable to prison. If a pregnant woman give birth in prison, the governor who does that should not allow the poor people.
Can you substantiate that? That the pregnant woman give birth in prison?
You can go to White House to verify from the prison services. You can go there to. It's not a hidden agenda. I'm from the society. I've also personally used my own money to bail people from prisons who I feel should not only be there for the fine of 5,000.
Who run foul of the law?
Yeah,
They run foul of the law.
They run foul of the law.
Okay.
But we all know the law is blind. But when you begin to be too harsh, and as of today, when you are going for elections, we now see people selling on those same streets where you send people to prison for. We now see bus driver parking recklessly in those areas where you say they should not park. We now see market women shading, if I use the proper word that we know, shading on the walkway. As I they go to New Benin this very early morning. I drove past every coming into the studio. If you see the state in which New Benin is, those infrastructure where the governor has wanted to create sanity, he did not provide those infrastructure in those states, ranging from Ring Road to Forestry to New Benin and New Lagos Road, cut around the entire city. 70% of the infrastructure we are enjoying today in Edo State was not created by his administration. And it is very painful. I heard that Ansole Oshomole saying the other day, it's very painful for you as a governor to have worked, provided infrastructure to the tune of street lights, and a government that you brought into power, supported, and could not continue on that. Now you take a delight in going to paste their banners on those infrastructure. Courtesy demands that the truth be said that that is not what a prudent leader should be showing us. But however, because some of us are cautious, we also believe that most of his projects like that of the Morton Estates, a Benin man wanting to cite a housing scheme is still being taken to court by a well-respected families like the Lamas in Benin today, dragging over the ownership of such sites. That shows you that the government is not doing the needful to interact with its people. The gap between Obaseki and the people is in between these political jobbers that are actually taking delight in milking the system. Some of us have actually said that Obaseki should not venture into wasting his resources. Rather, he should, as a Benin son, think on how to use those resources he has been wasting in past days to see how he can emerge as a candidate in the election under the opposition party in the state, having won from an incumbent party. We have always agitated that he doesn't go into a money wastage venture. Okay. All right. So that is it.
Okay. Let me bring you in here. The election is fast approaching. What are your thoughts on public perception of this present administration in relationship with promises made?
Well, the public perception, from what I know, is very good. The only challenge that Obaseki had was with APC leaders who felt that somebody was on air on channels, I won't mention name, telling us that every afternoon during Oshomole's time, they used to go to government house in the afternoons to go and eat lunch. What was eating lunch in government house? I was in ACN and I knew what happens in government house, what eating lunch was all about. So now the person has got a federal appointment. I haven't seen him coming out to make noise since this campaign started. And he said the governor has not done anything. I wish he can go to Ekmoma, go to Edo Central, and tell them that the governor has not done anything. During the course of campaigning for aspirants before our primaries, I went around the state with one of the aspirants, and I was pleasantly surprised at the development that has taken place in Ekmoma and other Edo Central local government areas. This was a senatorial zone that was deliberately ignored by the government of Adams Oshomole because he wanted to hit at Aneni, he wanted to hit at John Yakubu, who was the chairman then, who he felt refused to pay him 10% of his allocation. Go to Ekmoma now, go to Ambrose Ali University and see what the university has become. Somebody was arguing with me the other day and telling me that it was they were test fund projects. Even if they were test fund projects, who attracted test fund to the state? The green roof that we were all hearing about, was it the
red roofs, sir? Red roofs, sir.
Okay, now he has his time. He has his time, please.
Yes.
The red roof, green roof, whatever, were those projects executed with the state government's money? Definitely no. The state government had only 20% and the local government's 10%. The rest was UBE's money. So, but Oshomole took credit for it. So when they talk of TED fund, who brought TED fund? Who facilitated it? Who paid the counterpart fund? Was it not Obaseki? Today, Ambrose Ali University is taking a new shape from the neglect of 8 years. And then coming to talk of that, so he talked about employment. I'm surprised when educated people mistake job creation and job employment. Obaseki never said he was going to employ 200,000. He said he was going to create jobs. How do you create jobs? You provide enabling environment. You provide facilities for people to learn. And I challenge any of them. Go to EDO Production Center in Saple Road. Go to the Innovative Hub in IC. I was there last week, Tuesday. You know that before this time, I was one of his greatest critics because I have not seen. But like he said, this election is more of IC and not ESC or
ear hearing.
no, let's say ESC because
yes, you go to IMAC and EMAC, right? That's the way you put it.
Yes, EMAC. But I'm saying that it is more of IC, not ESC.
Okay.
Even though it's supposed to be ear here.
Okay.
People are more interested in what they are seeing now, not what anybody is promising. Simple agenda is just a book I can preach. I can start to go for the governorship, even except that it's late now, and also have a complex agenda and produce it. But that is not the same as something you are seeing. And he talked of somebody having problem with the LMS. Everybody knows that before this time, you could not develop any property in Benin without being harassed by the CDAs. Today, you people have been advertising one Chris or so, I can't remember his name now, who has an estate, he's a developer.
Okay, Prince Builders.
Prince Builders. That thing would never have been possible 5 years ago. It would never have been. Today, our people in diaspora, they sit back in the US, apply to the geological, whatever they call it, and they get their CV, their C of O through electronics media. They come, they invest, nobody harasses them again. Okay. And estates are coming up all over.
Okay. All right. Let me get Ima. Yeah. Yes, what do you make of this feeling in some quarters that the greatest challenge the APC possibly have is remarketing the party and remarketing the candidate, particularly from the former governor of the state, based on what he said, some of the things he said in 2016, which are not in the public domain?
Yes, particularly when anybody hears you say such a thing.
No, ask such a thing. Not say such a thing. Yes, because I'm asking a question. Yes.
You're asking me.
Yes.
One person want to say that Oshomole came out to say Ezeyamu is a thief. Oshomole came out to say Ezeyamu should not be trusted. But the question to ask, they have kept Ezeyamu in a court case for over 4 years now. And the court has found it difficult to convict such a man, knowing fully well that the man is not found wanting for such an act. But however, some of us who are intellectually prudent with the happenings in Edo State would not want to becloud our sense of deposition on this platform with such an ill substantive question. The question I expect Edo people to be asking, that I know the majority of us who are in Edo are currently asking, is that has this government taken us as their own? You see a government that is in Edo State that patronizes road construction, printing of government programs like Alagodao that they are no longer talking about. I expected my elder statesman to have conscientized me on Alagodao and the prospects of it. But however, they no longer talk about that. That is where they have voted their monies and our monies into. And some of us are very well disturbed that a governor that will sit down and dislodge people from jobs with the demolition of the T. Latifa Hotel, and till date, those infrastructure he says he wants to put in place there are not seen, and you expect some of us who are, intellectually prudent to subscribe to such a government. That notwithstanding, I just also want to draw my elder statesman's, because I will give him some thoughts to go and research on. I just want him to draw his attention to the fact that in the past 3 years now, the Edo State Civil Service, that is one of the smallest in Nigeria, has been milked with federal housing scheme that no civil servant in Edo State have been able to access. Not only that, when you go to the health sector, Stella Obasanjo was just recently renovated by the state government. Who is handling it? It is private individuals.
Okay.
Sorry, I have this to say. Edo Specialist Hospital has since been privatized by the state government. Who is handling it? Private individuals. Who is manning the hospital? State government employees, workers under the payroll of government. How do you subscribe that to a privatization policy today in any part of the world, that you privatize an institution, private people control the resources in their pockets and in their bank accounts, while the workforce are being paid by government?
So what's the implication of all of this for Edo 2020?
The implication of all of this for Edo 2020 is that Edo people will come out openly to resist such governments.
Okay, let me thank you.
And to round this up, sir,
yes.
It will please Edo people to note that the security of lives and property in this state has been jeopardized. In fact, the security that the government has invested billions of naira upon, that he used in intimidating some of us who were activists, sending us to prisons, like the likes of Kola Idopayi and the rest, who were coming out to advocate that the rights of social corporate responsibility should be given to the masses. It will please us to note that all the architecture the governor put in place is a failed policy. Okay,
let me get a final word from Osaze Jesuabo responding to some of this issues.
Yeah. I will not base my assessment on.
I have always expected that.
I will not base my assessment on what APC is saying. I will base my assessment on what people in the streets are saying, and I interact with them every day. Like I told you, I have a house in the heart of New Benin Market. So I'm there regularly, and my daughter also has a shop there. So I'm there regularly. I go to the house and I hear what people, taxi drivers, they load along Yoruba Street. I interact with them. I hear what they say. So what they are saying is what matters. Our people, they go abroad for medical treatment. Do they go to government hospitals? They go to private hospitals. What happens abroad is that government creates the enabling environment for industries and all other businesses to thrive. Okay. But my last words is in the words of Pastor Osage Izeyamu, who is today the candidate of APC. Bye-bye to APC, bye-bye to APC, in the name of Jesus, bye-bye to APC.
Okay, thank you. Thank you, gentlemen. Thank you, gentlemen.
If I may want to plead, I am an honest Edo son, and I want to ask my father here before we leave this platform this morning.
Yes.
In these Edo jobs, I don't know if all your children are gainfully employed.
All right, that will take us on another plank. Let me.
In these Edo jobs, have
any of your children
been employed?
Thank you, Emmanuel Agbogu.
My children are all grown up.
Osaze Jesuabo.
The three of them.
Thank you for your time. We'll have another time again. We'll have another time again. Thank you. It's the TMI Monday. We'll bring in our next panelist on board to look at engendering a violence-free Edo 2020 governorship election. John Yakubu, Barrister Kisle Omerabo, and Bishop Ibude will be joining us in a moment. Stay with us on TMI Monday.